Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee, and we are in our beautiful upgraded studio here at 265 Greenwood Ave. We are actually in the space of Outlast Fitness, which opens up in probably less than a month, very soon, and more on that soon. Much more on that soon. I'm not nervous at all.
Good.
Really looking forward to that. But yeah, we had our studio. We had a bunch of walls knocked down in the gym, and I actually don't know if this is an upgrade or downgrade from our studio.
It's looking a little bare bones right now, but I envision what it's going to be, and it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be awesome, yeah. So we're going to record our next two episodes from this area right now, and we just finished 25.3. Sam actually just did it, so I think some of the fresh thoughts that you have post-workout are going to be really fun to hear what he has to say about that one in particular. But what I wanted to do in terms of breaking down the Open was not necessarily break down each workout. How did you do? What could you have done better? I kind of want to break them down from this macro perspective of what was that test and what can I do to get better at that kind of test. And one great thing about the Open is that you can go and see where you ranked in every single workout. And it's a pretty objective because there's so much data and so many people. You're like, wow, I'm above average here. I'm average there. I'm below average there. What is my plan if I want to use the Open as a gauge for my future in CrossFit? So Sam, do you remember what Open this was for you? What number? Around 10?
About 10, yeah.
Yeah. So you're a decade of Open fitness into it. Overall, considering the fact that you just finished it, positive, neutral, negative in terms of the macro level programming of the 3-week Open this year?
This, it was definitely different than the Opens we've had in the past, for sure.
Yep.
Like the way they did the programming, I'm very interested to hear your take on it, skill level, sort of time domains, movements. They've really, and I'm interested to hear what you think their philosophy is now when you see how they've been programming year after year after year. I think the past 3 or 4 years have been radically different than the previous 5 or 6 years before that. And I think that you can sort of predict or at least see the trend that they're going in.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I'm 14 years in now, and I'm one of those guys back in the day, there was no scaling options in the workout. It was, here's the workout, go do it. If you can't, see you later. And obviously that was not the right approach, and they fixed it, and they've done a great job with that. But now it's almost made so basic because they're listening to affiliates and people doing it in their garages. How inclusive is it this? How accessible is everything that we need to get done? And every year, I do feel like it's never going to be easier. I never want to term these workouts as easy because at the end of the day, no matter who does them, games athletes included, when you watch them do it, it's a very difficult test because of the intensity. And that's part of the reason why CrossFit works with a lot of different kinds of athletes and people, is that you can take any workout, and if it is, quote, too easy, and I'm going to give actually a few examples of that from this past workout, then the response is just do more unbroken, go faster. At the end of the day, everyone should feel kind of in a similar way at the end of the workout. But let's dive into what each workout was testing. And I do like the word test. That's an old school Dave Castro thing, in that you should always view these as a test. Whether you take it seriously or not, is what is that workout testing? What did this Open test? And you also have to know that before you analyze and criticize a workout or a series of workouts, this is just one part of the season. So the next stage, the semifinal stage, that's where you can, yes, you'll see heavier weights and harder movements, but there is cohesion between the Open and that level, and you really can't assess programming until you see those workouts, because this is the first step of the sport. It's the first step of the CrossFit Games, are these workouts. So take it with a grain of salt a little bit, that we're just going to kind of look at it from the affiliate perspective. What were these workouts like? The first one was the 15-minute AMRAP, where everyone worked out for 15 minutes, and it had 2 bodyweight movements, walking lunges and burpees over the dumbbell, and a relatively light dumbbell with relatively light volume when looking at it from a big perspective. That, to me, this is something that we talk about all year, and get your thoughts on what you felt during this workout. That was your ability to move for 15 minutes straight without stopping. That is what that tested. They purposely didn't make it a heavy dumbbell. They purposely did not make it 2 dumbbells. They purposely did not make the lunges with a dumbbell, right? It was, hey, as tired as you are, you can always keep moving on a burpee. As tired as you are, you can go do those lunges. Maybe the dumbbell can get a little spicy on those hang dumbbell clean and jerks, but even with that, you very rarely saw someone put it down. So to me, when we test fitness here and we say, hey, I want to get better at engine workouts, at endurance workouts, really what we're testing there is how good are you at not stopping in a workout? Do you think that is more physical or mentally dependent?
That's mental. Yeah, they made it mental. Like you can always do the lunges. You could always do, I mean, so, you know, body weight movements. And I think it was very clear that the trend has been make that first workout as simple as possible.
Good point.
Like they had 1 dumbbell. That's all you need, and a little bit of space. That's all you needed.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I watched a couple, now you can submit videos online and people can watch them, you know, with your submission for your score. And I watched a bunch of videos just for fun. There are people doing it everywhere. They were doing it at Globo gyms, like in like really odd spaces. And so they really want to sort of get you by saying, hey, just try it. Here's a dumbbell. You got a dumbbell, just do it. And so a lot of people, I think, tried it because they didn't have like a wall ball and a rower and a, you know, all this stuff. And I think Castro is deliberately trying to make that as accessible as possible for that first workout.
Yeah, if you break down, especially since COVID, the first workout of every Open since then, and this has actually been a trend earlier too as well, is that it's not that they're easy workouts. Again, let's get that word out of it. It's just they're doable by everyone. Like everyone can do this workout. I have someone really close to me in my life that just started CrossFit this week that I've known for my entire life, and I'm really looking forward to kind of just maybe in my own head and helping him out, chronicling like what it's like to be a new CrossFitter. And I've already had a few conversations with him. I'm like, oh boy, we got to talk to that affiliate, but in a good way and bad way. But I do want to always think about him. Like he joined during the Open. His first Open workout was the one we just did.
Oh, wow. And
you would hate to see that being the first workout for someone ever doing the Open or the first workout of a season, because it's hard. There's really hard things in there to do. And you could say it was doable, inclusive, but at the end of the day, it wasn't. Like I know he probably couldn't do some of those movements where last year you had the dumbbell and the burpee. The year before that you had the row to start, toes to bar, wall balls, cleans, and then you had the ring muscle ups at the end, but with a little amount of time left. You had box jump overs, dumbbell snatch, wall walks the year before. You had wall walks and jump rope the year before that, meaning there wasn't anything in there that would get someone that's on the fence that would say, you know what, I'm not doing it. For example, 0.2 this year, thrusters, pull-ups, chest bar, pull-up muscle. If that was the first workout, you would have a lot of people that are on the fence, should I sign up or not, say no.
No, we had some people actually who didn't even, they were like not sure. They did the first one, did awesome at it. Because like you said, it's a mental challenge. And we have a lot of very mentally strong athletes. And then they were like, I'm in. So
multiply that by thousands, I bet. I mean, I really do think if you screw up the first workout of an Open, you will probably see a decline in registrations just because of the first workout. So it's tricky to test fitness with like all these rules and parameters, equipment, standards, ease of judging, inclusivity, what do gyms have equipment-wise, what don't they have? But the biggest thing is, I think before you get into the details of any first workout of an Open, it has to be something that almost everyone in the gym can do RX. All right, so that's really what that tested on that first workout, guys, was if you struggled on that one, the biggest fix there is undoubtedly conditioning, endurance, aerobic work. All right, doesn't mean you have to go run 3 miles a day or hop on a rower every day after class. It means try to be in tune with yourself in classes, day to day, week to week, month to month, throughout the year, and say, hey, can I find these workouts where it's just a battle of, hey, not stopping. Tuesday this week with a pull-up, run, push-up, air squat workout, the running Cindy, that's a really good example of being able to just keep your heart rate higher than normal, but not blowing up. That's what that tested there. 25.2 was just a very classic squat pull-up workout. You had thrusters, pull-ups, thrusters, chest to bar, thruster, muscle up. Very old school, to the point where I'm like, guys, let's vary this up a little bit with the programming. But if you CrossFit, you're going to see this combination throughout the year several times. And I think it might have been, you can make an argument, this was the biggest test of fitness, because there was heavy, there was high skill gymnastics, and there wasn't a lot of, I wouldn't call engine work, because you get to a point, you did have a lot of time. You could have kind of broke things up into sets of 2, 3, 4 and still finished. But I do think it might have been the best test of fitness. You've done this combination, Sam, in the open several times, in workouts several times. Does it ever get better? Does it ever get easier?
Well, after you turn 55, it does, because you get to do jumping pull-ups and chest to bar, and there are no bar muscle-ups in it. So yes, and the weights got insanely light for the 55-plus crowd. So yes, it did get easier.
We're going to touch on the scaling of the age groups and just the general scales at the end of talking about these workouts. But break this workout down. If this was a good one for you or for a bad one for you, why was it good? Why was it bad? It's hard to come up with an answer, because you can be a great lifter, but really struggle on the rig, and you're kind of screwed in this workout. You can be vice versa, great on the rig, but really struggle on the barbell, you're kind of screwed. So you really kind of have to break down why you struggled. And to me, why I like it as a blend of fitness is that a thruster, you have to train the upper and lower body. You have to squat, you have to press above your head. And then I also like this, kind of like a hidden factor to this workout that I think you can break yourself down on, is your mobility. Front rack mobility is a huge part of thrusters. You can muscle it and hold it for X amount of time, which we have some guys do. They just palm that thing. But the second you start getting tired, you just can't stay in that position anymore, because your mobility is bad. And we preach mobility here a lot for a lot of reasons. But can you touch on a little bit of why mobility is important for such a basic but a movement that we see every single year in the thruster?
It's a full body movement. I mean, when you're starting from a squat into a full extension press over your head, I cannot tell you, I like actually watching videos online. The judge, I wouldn't want to judge most of these guys that I saw.
Soft elbows at the top.
Oh my God, and just like not squatting to depth and not extending. It's really hard mobility-wise to be able to maintain that with weight over multiple reps. And so I feel like from a test of fitness, and I think Froning said this a long time ago, he thought like the thrusters was the most complete movement in terms of fitness.
It definitely is. I remember I got asked, if you could be told you were only allowed to do one movement for the rest of your life in fitness, what would it be if you wanted to maintain your highest level of fitness? Just one movement. Some people are like running. I'm like, well, you're gonna get weak. Some people like deadlift, but then you're not gonna have an engine. Like, I think the thruster or the squat clean thruster is it, because there's so many things that go into it. And don't want to complicate this, especially for some of you newer guys, but break it down part by part and say like, hey, there's a lot of ways to get better at them. You know, instead of being overwhelmed and be like, I have to work on my front rack mobility, I have to work on my overhead press strength and my squat and my torso and my core strength. It's like, hey, there's a lot you can do to get better at the movement. And they've been in every single open.
Every open.
We've had dumbbell thrusters before, but still that movement, that squat to upper body press has been in every open. So just in your head, if this performance side, if you struggled in this workout, don't get overwhelmed by how complex it is. Actually have some peace of mind that there's a lot of ways I can get better at it. I do think the squat, because that includes your front rack mobility, is probably the best way to get better at them. So if you do want to bias yourself there.
You need velocity. You need to be able to accelerate.
Right.
And that's hard for a lot of people to generate that kind of barbell speed.
I struggle with that.
On thrusters.
The jump rope. Okay, that was in that workout, because that's been in every open as well, the double unders. And I think there might have been one where there wasn't. And the volume overall was pretty low. We've seen workouts in the open that have 100 at a time, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Yes.
I mean, that is a very different kind of fitness test. But I think this is another thing that we're seeing with CrossFit, is they're not throwing these like sets of 75, 100, 200 at athletes in the open. Maybe the next stage they will. But can you touch on, because you and I both have our struggles with jump rope, and we both don't like doing them too many for just the pounding on the joints, but they should be a part of fitness in some way, don't you think?
Absolutely. There's a lot of, when you're talking about sort of coordination and learning how to move your body in space, double unders are a really good test of learning that coordination, timing, rhythm. It's not a strength not really even a cardiac in some ways, like if you're really efficient at them.
Yeah.
But I think forcing people to learn how to do those, and it's a challenge. I know some people for 10 years have really still struggled with doing double unders properly. And so I don't ever think that we should ever move away from double unders. I struggle with them.
Yeah.
It's still a challenge for me.
And scale when you need to if things hurt.
Of course.
But it's a part of fitness.
Absolutely. I think even people who say do single unders, but maybe with a weighted rope, like there's a lot you can do with just a jump rope. And that would increase your fitness. And
good point.
So I don't mind them throwing like 42 double unders, 30 some double unders. Like even when I suck at it on any given day, I can sort of get myself through it.
Yeah, I think what you touched on there, and to wrap this workout up, is coordination when you're really tired is a huge part. We talk about strength when you're tired, like, hey, do a workout lift after. But being able to, and I think that's where I struggle a lot. Like even Bobby came up to me yesterday's bison wad on the Saturday with jump rope, and he goes, dude, your hands are so far back when you do double unders. I'm like, really? Like I didn't even realize. When you get tired, you really do start losing concentration on where you are in space. And I saw that on the rig as well. I've seen people that can do muscle ups all day throughout the year, but the second you get to that fatigue, it's almost like they mentally forget how to do them. They forget to extend their hips and they try to chicken wing or yank themselves up there. And that's sort of something that we can all focus on throughout the year, because we preach to you guys, don't always pursue the score of today's workout. It can work to a point, but it caps your potential. And if you are performance-based, I think you need to have days or even periods of the year where you are really being present with your movement, the quality of movement, especially when you're tired, rather than how many can I do unbroken, even if they're sloppy.
Absolutely.
The last workout that you just did, and this is going to be fresh in Sam's head. Sam he just crushed it. Team Iron, what's up? And this was the workout that was also for time with a pretty long cap. And when I say long cap, I mean there are people that did this under 10 minutes in the world, and the cap was 20. So, no, I know this is not a long cap for everyone, but compared to the fastest times, it was a much longer cap than the 4-time workout in week 2. And you could make the argument that this was a test of fitness because there was very mixed modal. Mixed modal means, to me, there's engine there. You had the rowing, weightlifting in there. You had the deadlift, clean and snatch, and you had body weight skill / gymnastics in the wall walk. So it's a very CrossFit-y test. Is that how you felt during that one?
Yes. People can get hitched up on so many different levels for this. So I talked to about 15 athletes, and they're like, those deadlifts are really heavy for me, or those wall walks, it's really hard for me to do those. Or so like there was a lot, or the row, like even for some of the athletes, like just rowing 50 cals hard is like a challenge. So for everyone, they kind of face it with their own perspective in terms of what was the hard part for them. For the good athletes, or not good, but the ones who have the weight, have the skill level, then it becomes a mental challenge to really get through it. So I think every athlete who faced it had their own personal challenge. Someone like you who feels reasonably comfortable with all those movements, it's like, can I hang on? Can I grind through it? Can I get through this and not stop? And then for everyone else, it's like, okay, how fast can I get my row time? Can I get my 5 wall walks done without like having to like burn out and wait? Can I actually do 25 deadlifts at whatever that weight is? So it's a challenge.
This one to me was the best test of, do you know yourself? Like, do you know what you're good at? Do you know what you're bad at?
Exactly.
And that's something you could pay attention to throughout the year. And in a gym like this at Bison, you have so many good athletes at different movements. You have your lifters here, you have your gymnasts, you have your engine people, and you could always use them as a gauge. Hey, I'm getting closer to this person, I'm getting further away from this person. That's where I think keeping track of scores is really important. Not because you win or lose, it can give you a really real-time gauge of where you're at throughout the year. And to me, in this workout, if you did get held up at a certain part, you probably got held up at the lifting. I started getting held up at the lifting, the cleans and the snatches. You see other people get held up on the wall walks. Other people they get to the row and they can't do it. Here's another thing about this workout. It might be hard to do if it's in the rearview mirror for you right now, but how much slower was the first row than the second row, or vice versa? If I did my first row in 3 minutes, my second one took me 4:45. That's a really good indicator to me that you have not figured out what your paces should be on a machine. You just kind of row until it's over and you go and move on. You get out of breath, you think you're doing your job. I really do think it helps to know exactly what you can do on a rower. The amount of times that I had athletes come up to me in this workout and the previous and say, hey, my rep scheme is going to be this. I'm like, that's all. And like, you could tell it was like written in like code on a piece of paper with like dashes and divs. I'm like, okay, you never, not once did I hear someone say, I'm going to rest 5 seconds in between sets. I'm going to rest 10 seconds in between sets. It was just what my rep scheme is. I want to challenge all the athletes here at Bison to start thinking about how many breaths am I taking between sets rather than what should my sets be. Because it's really hard to determine. Like if I told my brother who did his first open workout, I said, hey, do 5s on the deadlifts. If you rested a minute in between those sets or 5 seconds, you're talking about completely different stimulus.
Absolutely.
Do you think time when you're taking your rest, or are you thinking feeling/breaths?
A little of both. I think when I saw the pros do it, like Dallin Pepper, he did singles on the cleans.
Yeah.
But it was the most efficient, fast singles you've ever seen.
Yep.
And
there's rumors those guys knew the workout before anyway, but it's all right.
I will say that the rest is the critical part of it. Like when someone wants to redo this workout, you know, it's like, where are you going to make up the time? You're not making up by necessarily rowing faster or, you know, like you said, your rep scheme. It's how much rest are you taking in between all of your sets? Yeah. And I could feel that while I was doing this, especially at the end. I was like, I didn't even want to look at the clock because I was afraid how much time I was wasting in between while I was resting. But I knew it. I was like, the only way, it's not the singles, it's not the reps of 3 or 5 or unbroken. It's I'm standing here doing nothing, and I know that I just need to get back to the bar. And everyone said that before I started, they're like, just get back to the bar.
Yeah.
It's insane how much time you can kill thinking it's only 3, and it's like 15.
Complementary movements like this, right? Meaning they don't run into each other back to back, all right? So you go from a very upper body dominant movement of the wall walk to a very lower body dominant of the barbell. I know your arms are pulling and hanging, but still it's a lower body dominant movement when you're lifting a bar off the ground. And I think it's something that if you have any knowledge of programming whatsoever, basic or not, you have to know that the muscles you need to do that next movement are there, at least for the start. So like, I think it was really fun to watch someone they knew, and they know that. They put that barbell down, they're exhausted, you can do a wall walk. And then you might need a break. But you don't need the break as to walk to the station, lay on the ground, wait 20 seconds, right? If you multiply that by 5, 6, 7, 8 transitions in that workout, that's probably a minute right there. People that want to get a minute faster, that's where it's at.
It's universal. If you record your workout and you watch it, you're like, what am I doing? I'm just standing there. And
why is everyone yelling at me?
Yes, and it makes me cringe every time I watch myself because I'm the same way. I'm like, whoa, I waited way too long there.
Yeah, I mean, go back to videotaping the workouts, especially with someone like that. You can really see, because at the end of the day, guys, other than the wall walk, right? The snatch, deadlift, and clean, the movement itself, everyone does them basically in the same amount of time. So it's just a matter of how long you're resting between, how long you rested before you picked it up. So like that's, I want to challenge athletes as you start planning out workouts for the next year, is start putting more thought into how long is your rest, how many breaths are you taking, how do you physically feel before you start moving again, much more often than what is your rep scheme. Because I don't think the rep scheme helps that much.
I will say, if you are a monster on the machines, that helps. I saw the video where you were unloading at the end, and you sent it, and it was like 2,100 for your final 50 cals, and I was like, dude, you can't. That's pretty unique.
The row is always comfortable, but it's also like I knew when to start pushing. Like you get to 20 cals and like, all right, start going. You get to 30, all right, now let's go. But it's because I've done it several times. Experience always helps. But I'm also very aware when I'm working out, like when we just recently did the 500, 1,000, 2,000 meter rows, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, when we do those for time, I know, I don't want to do it again either. But with that said, I know, hey, when there's about a minute left, I could usually just go. Where it used to be 20 seconds. But then I was like, wait, if I row with 20 seconds left and I was still at that peak, maybe I could have pushed a little bit earlier. And that's where you just have to be present with it. Don't overanalyze it and stress yourself out. Just be a present athlete mentally, and I think it does help out a lot.
Do you think most of the athletes were happy with their performances for the 3 workouts overall at our gym or not?
I think most were, but I do think in any open, I have to make sure everyone knows there's some luck involved, right? Example, like Bobby and I were joking around, like CrossFit threw me a bone this week. Like rowing, no squatting, like medium barbell, that's the specialty.
Right.
Doesn't take a lot of skill, doesn't take a lot of strength, mental fortitude, whatever you want to call it. And so like that, but I told him if that was a squat workout, if those barbell movements were back squat, front squat, overhead squat, I would have gotten smoked. The lower body capacity is not there. So before you get upset or happy, all right, I don't want anyone getting too happy about it. I don't want getting too upset. I want us all as close to the line as possible. There is luck involved in programming, especially in a 3-week open. So to answer the question, are people happy about their performance? All right, other than the cliche answer that it's individual, I do think people are happy, generally speaking. But I also know some of these people that put a lot of work into the past year and we're trying to reach a certain threshold, whether it's a percentage or whatever, right? That a few of them will not be happy. And I want to make sure they know some of it was just, you got a little unlucky with programming. And I think that's really important to know. And that's part of the reason why CrossFit, you have to work on so many things. You can't just focus in on one area because it'll probably leave you short in others. So the last part of this episode, I really want to get into the last is kind of like Bison's challenge to CrossFit and whoever runs the opening programs then, whether it be Adrian, Dave, a staff. I think there needs to be improvements. I don't want to talk about the quality of the workout test. The fitness tests themselves, if you look at it from like a wide lens, it's a good test of fitness. All right, the fittest will rise, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I want to challenge them with their scaling. And I have an idea because I have a lot of people that have said, Dave, like jumping pull-ups, are you serious?
That was me.
Yeah. Sam's a very high-level, 55-plus-year-old athlete. We have others, one that was at the games last year. Watching them do jumping pull-ups and not do muscle-ups to me was silly. It really was. And I understand why they're doing it. And I wouldn't want anyone to criticize my programming without having a conversation about it. So it's a little unfair for me to say this without any response, but I've been paying attention to this for a long time. I think the scaling is really outdated. And I think it's a classic situation of, hey, this is the way we've always done it. And that in some ways, that is the right answer. In a lot of ways, I would even say most, you're not evolving. And I think with an aging group in CrossFit that can still do these gymnastics, you got to open the door to them, the 55-plus-year-olds still doing high-level gymnastics in the open. What do you think about that?
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think the shortcoming is I don't think anyone involved in programming on the CrossFit HQ level is over 55. And that, I guarantee you, I'm like, you be 55, you do this, and now you program this and see what you're. Right. And that kind of cheeses me off a little bit because, yeah, sure, when I was under 55, I didn't really care what the over 55 people were doing.
Right, yeah.
But this was the first year I did it, and I was like, this was thoroughly unsatisfying.
With the wall walk as well.
Yes,
right?
The scaled wall walk.
Because you do wall walks all year. You do muscle-ups all year.
Yes.
Now you're never going to do them again in the open?
And so you have to ask, what is the philosophy for that? Is it, like, I can only think of a couple reasons why they would do that. One is they're afraid that 55-year-olds are going to get injured by doing more complicated movements. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's BS because everyone is pretty much at the same risk. And if you don't feel like doing it, you can always do scaled 55 plus.
Yep, I agree.
Is it that you don't think the 55 plus can do these movements? And that's BS because we know tons of 55-year-olds, yes, who can do those movements. Yep. So for me, whatever rationale they have to do these scales the way they are is just wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think that they are doing any favors. And I pretty much guarantee if Dave Castro is still programming this at 55, he's going to change it. Yep. No doubt. Like I know that.
And some things I know about the inner workings of CrossFit, like I wonder if people are actually truly afraid to step up and challenge him. I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I've been programming at this gym since day one. I beg for feedback, negative criticism, constructive criticism. I have to fight about it, but because you never want to be, because I am biased. Like I will say, I am biased in programming. It's impossible for someone to program and not be a little biased, not necessarily what I want to do. I think I've gotten away from that, but I am biased towards what should be done. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're right. And I do question people within CrossFit. Are they willing to challenge Dave Castro? And is he humble enough to really take time and break down, do 55-year-olds, 55-plus-year-olds never do a wall walk again? They never do a muscle up again? Like, I'm not on board with that at all. And I think that with the weightlifting, I can understand. In my opinion, there's a little bit more scientific evidence, right? Like, hey, maybe you guys don't need to do those crazy weights, but the gymnastics is a lot more sustainable, and I see that as an affiliate owner. Like, I'm on board, honestly, with putting your weights down a bit. We see that with level 1, level 2, level 3 here. But the gymnastics, I think you should be able to stick the same, especially when this is a test of fitness that eventually leads to semifinals in the games that have muscle ups and high-level gymnastics. So I think there's lack of cohesion with, yes, this is the first test of the CrossFit Games, but not for the 55-year-old masters. We're gonna have you guys do jumping pull-ups. I think if someone wants to compete at a high level, you should be able to let them display their ability on the rig.
Absolutely, because if you're not getting tested at the open level, you're gonna have to now test them at the semifinals level. And so you just wasted.
And
what?
You're going to have people making semifinals that are not qualified.
That's exactly right.
That's the problem.
You didn't screen, so now you got to do a real screening test at the semifinals. Well, you just wasted 3 workouts, or at least 1 workout where you could have pre-screened a lot of these people. So they're like, oh, you can't, like, you should be able to do a bar muscle up.
Yep.
Now, what, are you going to test them in the semis?
Yep.
Because you didn't test them in the open.
Have to.
And so it's like, yeah, so now you have a lot more weight on a couple workouts that you have to do. And that semi for like for Kathleen or whomever else, Tracy's gonna make it, like, that's a very compressed time period to do what? It's like a weekend, like
4 days.
4 days, and to do 4 events. Like, dude, that randomness there is so much higher.
And you have people that can't do gymnastics that are going to qualify for that stage.
Yes.
And you're gonna have people that can do gymnastics that did not qualify.
That is correct.
So what are we doing here? There's a lack of cohesion.
And now you're going to put up these people on stage as, quote, the fittest in that age group that have not been screened properly.
So that is where I think this is an issue, and there's a way around it. And I think they need to just break everything scaling down for the age groups and literally start from scratch and get some masters athletes in there. Get people that have been games athletes, Tracy-type people that have coached, competed at the games multiple times over the years, have seen the changes, have experienced them, good and bad. All right? Scaling, last thing on scaling. I'm on this board. I've thought about this for weeks now, and I'm going to probably try to really talk to someone about it. You should have your RX, okay? Those are the standards, those moves. You can't do it. I'm sorry. You cannot do it, period. All right? Scaled, there should be multiple options for movements, because we do this all year. Hey guys, here's the RX, scale however you want. We used to write green band, red band. Well, we don't do that anymore, but it's scaled.
You're right.
You know, we have a lot of athletes that want to display. They've worked on pull-ups all year, or they've worked on some silly, or vice versa. They can't do pull-ups, and that was the second movement of the scaled workout, so they worked out for 2 minutes, they went home. Here we are trying to sell the open to people. And good athletes come, they can't do the second gymnastics movement, they don't have a pull-up yet. That's it, it's a 2-minute workout. They paid $25 for this. We pushed it over and over. Why not give the option to do ring rows or jumping pull-ups, banded pull-up and Dave, that's gonna mess up the leaderboard for what? No offense to anybody that does scaled. If anything, I'm doing this to look out for scaled people. The scaled leaderboard doesn't lead to a next stage.
Correct.
Community Cup, we'll see. But let them be able to pick, hey, I wanna do ring rows instead of a jumping pull-up. We have an athlete here with a significant hip problem. That workout comes out, and she could do pull-ups, she could do chest bar, all right? So she comes into the gym in a workout that has jump rope, a lot of thrusters, both movements bother her hip. Now she has to start off the workout with 21 jumping pull-ups, which is 95% leg jump capacity.
Yep.
You're not getting the stimulus of Fran when you do that.
No.
You're barely doing any pulling.
Yeah.
So and like that, to me, if I was scaled athlete, I would feel like they don't care about you. I think the open needs to change scaled to Here are your 3 options. Pick one. What do you think?
I think the argument would be, well, and this, you already answered it, but people are going to choose the easiest option.
Some will.
So that they can be at the top of the scaled leaderboard. But if that's what you want to do,
Right.
God bless. Or, I don't know, maybe you list what the...
Scale 1, scale 2, level 1, level 2.
Or like, So I know it makes it more complicated.
It does. And now are you going to do that with the barbell lifting as well?
Right. So the logistics are a little bit more complicated, but I would say the overall satisfaction for the scaled athletes is going to be much higher. And honestly, like you said, who cares about the leaderboard? We can simplify it. Maybe people are not happy that it's not registering that you did jumping pull-ups versus regular pull-ups or banded pull-ups.
Yep.
So what?
Yeah, you put it in your notes section.
That's right.
If you really care that much.
That's
and if you're going to care that much, you better be keeping those notes.
That's right.
If you're going to complain just because you like to complain when something's wrong,
right,
and then you forget about it a week later, no offense to you, I'm not really going to care about your opinion that much.
I don't think in 10 years I've ever heard someone proclaim that they were number 1 on the scale, like anywhere.
Right.
Like no one said I'm top 10 in the scale division ever.
Right.
So who cares?
And I do think that when you talk about a leaderboard, your scale, your RX, you have to be as present as possible with the fact that this really is for you. You shouldn't be only using this to compare yourself with people unless you're a competitor. If you want to compete and put yourself in that kind of tornado, go for it. We'll support you. But yes, your outlook on this will change. And if you are a competitor, the RX is where you're going to have to lead to. That you're eventually going to have to try to get there. The scale, to me, I think we have so many people here that are here for the experience. They want to be part of the community. They want to help Bison out because it does. It helps us out when they do this, and we appreciate it very much. Give them options. And
I would say they should experiment because I know they're going to be like, the standards, our sheet is already this long with all the standards in there. Just maybe do one additional option or something.
Give ring rows or jumping pull-ups.
Right.
You know, like the weights I do, and you're never going to come up. So I know the answer would be from them. You're never going to come up with the right answer. I know. Like, trust me, I know. With level 1, level 2, level 3, Bison benchmark workouts, given that there is no perfect solution. No matter what you do, there will be a group of people that complain. But to me, I do think they've lost touch with affiliates and athletes that they're trying to get to sign up in an era where registrations are down, that they're not actually trying to challenge themselves. That's where this all circles back to. Are you guys really looking in the mirror and trying to find every possible way to improve open programming for everybody?
The bottom line is, if I'm an affiliate owner, is this helping me that I can offer another option to my scaled athletes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an unqualified yes.
Yes.
If I can tell someone, you don't have to do this, you can do this or that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what Foundations is, and that's why it really does help us a lot.
Yeah, I like Foundations. It's a no-brainer.
And makes people feel included.
Right. Yeah. RX is what it is.
Yep.
They will help us as affiliates if they provide bigger options for scaled.
Cool. All right, so that's going to break down the Open from just a programming perspective, as an individual athlete, as an affiliate, from CrossFit's HQ perspective, what can be better. You're definitely in an era where we need to get things better, and I think part of it, just like here at the gym, programming is a huge part of it, and really listening to others rather than always thinking you know what's best. So that's our suggestion for you as an athlete, suggestion for you, CrossFit HQ. Can't wait till the Open in 2026.
Congratulations to everyone who did the Open this year. Just pat yourself on the back first.
Yep. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. You know, we'll get out there some of the awards that we do here at Bison, the top 10% for Bison quarterfinals, the athletes that made semifinals. And all these athletes that did it for the first time, I hope you guys can use this as one North Star to kind of keep in the back of your head and train throughout the year. But even if you're not performance centered, I hope you guys had fun, proud of everyone. This last workout was the perfect ending to the Open with everyone screaming at everyone on the rower.
Oh my God, that was the best picture of Matt Z. And
we're going to do something with that picture.
Oh my God, that was iconic. You could see the 1959 in the back. It was like perfect.
Yeah, so we really are, the magic of the Open hit Bison several times over the past few weeks, and we can't wait till the 2026 Open. Hope to see you guys there. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.